Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with one of the world's most beautiful melodies. And this one is by Haydn. I've been doing a lot of Haydn lately. I always do a lot of Haydn because I think he's the world's most underrated composer, along with Dvorak possibly. But the thing about Haydn that is so fascinating is that he created so many masterpieces that are all but unknown. And he wasn't generally known as a melodist. He wrote great tunes, no question about it. He wrote the German national anthem. He could write a tune when he wanted to write a tune. But his melodies are not like Mozart's melodies, for example, those beautiful vocal, gorgeous singing melodies. He could do that too, but he had a different concept of what a musical theme was. And this larger concept really was a larger concept than Mozart and Beethoven, who were limited essentially to vocal music. Haydn's idea of musical theme, which is essentially melody, was unlimited. It could be anything. It could be a noise. It could be a rhythm. It could be a pattern of some kind. It could be some motive, something. It could be just repeated notes. He created objects out of these things. And these things we sometimes call melodies. And sometimes he wrote unbelievably long, gorgeous, haunting melodies. Beautiful, beautiful melodies, and nobody knows them. And I am going to show you one of them. We're going to listen to one of them. This is the slow movement of his piano trio in E major. Now, the piano trio in E major has lots of numbers that go with it. There is the Hoboken number, which is number 28. And then there is the H.C. Robbins Landon, that's Landon, L-A-N-D-O-N number, that's 44. Because when Anthony von Hoboken put together the original Haydn catalog, he hadn't found all the piano trios. And H.C. Robbins Landon subsequently came out with a batch more. And so the number of them increased. And so now there are quite a bunch. And this one became number 44 in the chronological listing. So you may see it either way. It's in E major, and it has a central movement marked allegretto, which is like, the slow movement of Beethoven's Seventh, not really slow. And it is astonishing. Now, essentially, the movement is a passacaglia. A passacaglia is a bass line, a thematic subject of some kind in the bass with a series of melodies or variations happening on top of it. It just repeats itself over and over again in different positions. It could be with slightly different harmonies or in different keys, but it's the same idea. And there are variations going on top of it. And Haydn does that for this trio. And wow, what a result you get. The trio is for violin, cello, and piano. And initially, all of the instruments together in unison announce the passacaglia theme, which is in steady notes, do, 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 like that, in a steady rhythm. It's a very haunting and creepy theme all by itself. And then the strings drop out, and the piano alone announces the theme in the right hand, while the left hand keeps doing the passacaglia theme. It repeats underneath. Now, what makes this thing so fascinating, first of all, is that the range is enormous. At one point, the pianist is all the way at the top of the keyboard and all the way at the bottom, stretched out, doing like this, which is an unbelievably interesting sound. Then the strings come in with the passacaglia theme as the piano continues, and then the parts switch. Then the strings get the theme, the melody that goes on top of the passacaglia, and the piano continues below, and it could go on like that forever. Except that at some point the melody just stops, and with a series of cadenzas, flourishes with the piano, whum, whoo, like this, the piece just comes to an end. And along the way, the most amazing thing happens. It's as if the melody is traveling through time. It starts, because it's just a severe two-part melody, it starts as if it's some kind of Baroque pastiche that's, Bach could have written it. But then harmony starts to break in, and we enter the classical era, and then it changes to a minor key, and the harmony becomes more chromatic, more colored, and more dissonant. And it's as if it's going from the Baroque period to the classical period to the Romantic period with a gesture off into the future. And it's all a single uninterrupted melody, basically 4 minutes long. So anybody who says that Haydn did not write long breath melodies, play them this, because it's a melody that it's just endless. It spins itself out as it cycles around and time travels. It is without question one of the world's most astounding melodies and one of the most beautiful things that Haydn wrote, and one of the most haunting, truly haunting movements you will ever hear. When you get this under your skin, it's never going to go away. You will never forget it. I guarantee. It's just amazing. So we're going to listen to an absolutely superb performance, by the way, featuring the Kungsbacka Trio on Naxos. They've done 3 discs of Haydn trios, which are excellent. They're a very, very, very fine group, a wonderful group. And I have to say, they play with awareness of period style. The strings have very minimal vibrato, but they are modern strings, thank God, because I have a bunch of performances of this on period instruments. It sounds terrible on period instruments, just terrible. Most of the time, the players take it way too fast, way too dry, with a clunky, awful-sounding forte piano. I mean, this is music that is not only about long melody, but it's also about color and texture. A brilliant exploitation of trio textures. In fact, this whole trio is. It begins with pizzicatos on the strings and the piano melody. It's a colorful piece of music, and you need instruments that can realize all of the color that Haydn wrote into it. And it's not just that, because as I said, this is a melody that seems to travel through time, and this is often true of Haydn. When you play him on period instruments, he sounds. It sounds as though sometimes he were writing for the future, because he sounds so good. For example, on a big symphony orchestra with lots of strings and double woodwinds, and he really, really was an incredible forward-thinking kind of composer, and his music suits modern instruments extremely well. Sometimes I really think better than period instruments. I'm not quite sure exactly why that's the case. But when you do these comparisons, it may be just because of the way we play those period instruments today. We do it in a way that diminishes Haydn's music. So this is a performance by the Kungsbacka Trio that does not diminish the music. It realizes its brooding intensity with extreme effectiveness. And I think you'll agree. So let me just play you now the entire movement, all 4 minutes of this enormous, fantastic melody, and see if you don't agree with me about its seeming evolution in time. It's an experience. It's just an experience. It's like nothing else, something that only music can do. Music by an amazing genius. Here it is. Isn't that incredible? First time I heard that, it was the Beaux-Arts Trio performance on Philips, the complete piano trios they did, which was very, very good. And I just was like, wow, who wrote that? What is it? It exists outside of time. That's the only way I can describe it. There's a lot of Haydn that does that. There really is. It just seems to be its own musical universe evolving before our ears. So I hope you enjoyed this example of the world's most beautiful melodies. I think this one is really, really up there, and I hope you agree with me. Keep on listening, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.